Something was wrong with the water. Marcus noticed it during the third lap of his shark feeding routine, a vibration that didn't match the aquarium's circulation pumps, a frequency that felt mechanical, deliberate. He paused mid-swim, floating 30 feet down in 750,000 gallons of salt water, and pressed his gloved hand against the tank's concrete foundation. There it was again. Rhythmic, precise, not water pumps, not filtration systems, drilling. Someone was drilling through concrete, into his tank, from below. Marcus's mind shifted immediately from entertainer mode to tactical assessment. The aquarium sat on the corner of Harbor Boulevard and Ocean Avenue. To the north, tourist shops. To the east, restaurants. To the south, parking structure. To the west, Pacific National Bank, the oldest bank in the city, with a vault that famously held safety deposit boxes used by some of the wealthiest families on the coast. Marcus looked up at the crowd above. 300 people watching him feed sharks, completely unaware that somewhere below this tank, thieves were attempting what might be the most elaborate heist the city had ever seen. He had two choices: surface, alert security, let professionals handle it, or use the 18 years of Navy EOD training he'd hoped never to need again and stop it himself. The drilling sound intensified. Marcus made his choice. He grabbed his underwater toolkit, ostensibly for tank maintenance during shows, and dove toward the bottom of the tank. Because before Marcus Chen became the aquarium's beloved shark diver, he'd been the Navy's best underwater breach specialist, and these thieves had just made a critical mistake. They'd tunneled into his water. Welcome to True Human Tales. Before we continue this powerful story of hidden expertise, underwater operations, and unexpected heroism, tell me in the comments, from which city in the world are you watching this video today? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. We're building a community that honors those whose skills run deeper than anyone knows. Let's get started. The Pacific Coast Aquarium was a landmark on Harbor Boulevard, a massive structure of concrete, steel, and acrylic glass that housed over 10,000 marine animals in exhibits that ranged from shallow tide pools to the centerpiece, the Great Ocean Tank. The tank held 750,000 gallons of temperature-controlled salt water and was home to blacktip reef sharks, eagle rays, sea turtles, and hundreds of smaller fish species. It stood 3 stories tall with viewing windows on multiple levels, allowing visitors to experience marine life from different depths and angles. The acrylic viewing panels were 8 inches thick, capable of withstanding the immense pressure of all that water, and curved in a way that gave visitors the sensation of being underwater themselves. On busy days like today, a Saturday in mid-July, the aquarium could see over 5,000 visitors. Families with children pressed their faces against the glass. School groups took notes for biology projects. Elderly couples walked hand in hand through the dimly lit corridors that made the exhibits glow like windows into another world. The dive shows happened twice daily, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and were among the aquarium's most popular attractions. Marcus Chen had been conducting them for 6 years, swimming among the sharks with practiced ease, feeding them by hand while providing educational commentary through an underwater microphone system. At 43, Marcus looked exactly like what visitors expected from an aquarium diver. Fit but not intimidating. Friendly smile, visible even through his dive mask, movements fluid and calm. His bio in the aquarium's program mentioned marine biology education and diving certifications, but was otherwise vague about his background. What it didn't mention was the 18 years Marcus had spent in the Navy as an explosive ordnance disposal technician, specializing in underwater demolition and mine clearance operations. From 1998 to 2016, he'd conducted missions in some of the most dangerous waters on Earth, clearing Iraqi naval mines from the Persian Gulf, conducting covert underwater reconnaissance on enemy installations, and training other divers in techniques that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. He'd left with commendations, chronic pain from decompression injuries, and psychological scars from operations that still invaded his dreams. The aquarium job had been perfect therapy. Peaceful dives in controlled conditions, surrounded by life instead of death, entertaining families instead of conducting military operations. For 6 years, it had worked. The nightmares had decreased. The hypervigilance had faded. Marcus had finally started to feel like a civilian. Until today, when the vibration in the water activated training that never really goes away. Marcus descended to the tank's bottom, where the concrete foundation met the filtration system's intake pipes. He pressed both hands against the floor, feeling for the vibration's source and pattern. There, northwest corner, approximately 15 feet from the visible tank boundary. The drilling was methodical, professional, not the random hammering of amateurs, but the controlled rhythm of people who knew exactly what they were doing, which meant planning, resources, expertise. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. This was a calculated heist that had probably been in development for months. Marcus's mind ran through the structural layout he'd memorized during his initial training at the Aquarium. The Great Ocean Tank's foundation was reinforced concrete, 4 feet thick at the base, designed to handle massive water pressure. Beneath it was a maintenance level used for filtration equipment and emergency access. Beneath that was approximately 12 feet of earth and bedrock, and beneath that, if his mental map was correct, was the sub-basement level of Pacific National Bank, where the vault's primary security systems and safe deposit storage were located. The thieves were tunneling up, through bedrock, through the aquarium's foundation, probably planning to breach into the vault from below, where security would be minimal, because no one expected an underwater approach. It was brilliant, really, audacious, the kind of operation that required serious funding and expertise. But they'd made one critical error. They'd chosen to tunnel through a space where a former Navy EOD diver spent 30 minutes twice daily in direct contact with the water and structure. Marcus surfaced slowly, maintaining his performance persona for the watching crowd. He removed his regulator and smiled at the audience viewing windows. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break for some routine tank maintenance," he announced through his microphone. "Please enjoy the other exhibits, and we'll resume the show in about 15 minutes. The crowd dispersed slowly, some disappointed, others already heading toward the touch pool exhibits. Marcus swam to the tank's access platform, where the aquarium's assistant director, Jennifer Park, was reviewing show schedules on her tablet. "Jen," Marcus said quietly, pulling himself onto the platform. "We have a situation. I need you to call the police, right now. Don't evacuate, don't make a scene, but make the call." Jennifer's expression shifted from casual to alert. She'd worked with Marcus long enough to know he didn't panic. "What's happening?" "Bank heist in progress. They're tunneling up from below. I felt drilling through the tank foundation." "How can you possibly?" 18 years, Navy EOD underwater demolition specialist. I know what breaching operations feel like. Marcus kept his voice calm, matter of fact. "They're probably planning to breach the vault tonight, but the tunnel's already compromised our foundation. If they hit a rebar lattice wrong, we could have a structural failure." Jennifer's eyes widened. "The water." "Exactly. 750,000 gallons flooding the maintenance level, possibly the bank basement. We need police, structural engineers, and we need them quiet. If the thieves realize they've been detected, they might trigger the breach early." "What are you going to do?" Marcus grabbed the underwater camera rig used for filming educational content. "Document, and if necessary, delay them until backup arrives." "Marcus, you're not law enforcement anymore." "No," he agreed, already checking the camera's waterproofing. "But I'm the only person in this building who knows how to handle an underwater breach situation, and right now, that makes me the first line of defense." He put his regulator back in and sank beneath the surface before Jennifer could argue further. Marcus descended to the drilling location with the camera rig, positioning it to capture the tank floor. The vibration had stopped. They were probably changing drill bits or repositioning equipment. He had maybe 5 minutes before they resumed. Marcus opened his underwater toolkit, a waterproof case that theoretically contained tank maintenance supplies. In reality, it also contained equipment he'd quietly assembled over 6 years: chemical light sticks, waterproof markers, emergency patch materials, and a few items that weren't standard aquarium issue. He marked the drilling location with a chemical light stick, creating a visible reference point, then used the underwater tablet to access the tank's structural monitoring system. The aquarium's engineers had installed pressure sensors throughout the foundation as a safety measure. Marcus pulled up the sensor data. There, northwest quadrant, sensors showing abnormal vibration patterns starting approximately 40 minutes ago, right when his 2 p.m. show had begun. They'd timed it deliberately, knowing the noise and activity of a live dive show would mask any subtle sounds or vibrations. Smart, but not smart enough. The drilling resumed. Marcus felt it through the water before he heard it. A change in pressure, a rhythmic pulse that disrupted the tank's normal circulation patterns. He dove to the exact location and pressed his ear against the concrete foundation. Voices, muffled but distinct. At least 3 people, maybe more, speaking in calm, professional tones, someone giving measurements, someone else confirming structural calculations. This was a professional crew. Organized, funded, the kind of operation that would have contingency plans and security protocols, which meant they might have someone monitoring the aquarium's activity, watching for security responses, prepared to abort or accelerate if necessary. Marcus surfaced quickly and caught Jennifer's attention from the platform. He made a series of hand signals, technical diving communication that she wouldn't understand but would recognize as urgent. She nodded and held up her phone. Police en route, ETA 12 minutes, 12 minutes. The thieves could complete the breach in less if they went to full speed. Marcus made a decision. He grabbed the emergency breach kit from the maintenance panel, officially for repairing tank leaks, but designed with materials that could seal almost any underwater penetration, and descended one more time. At the drilling site, he could see the concrete beginning to fracture, tiny cracks radiating from the impact point. They were close, maybe inches from breakthrough. If they breached while he was down here, 750,000 gallons of pressurized salt water would flood their tunnel in seconds. They'd drown before they understood what happened. Marcus didn't want deaths. He wanted arrests. He positioned himself directly above the drilling site and did something that would either stop the heist or get him killed. He took a waterproof explosive marker, technically a distress flare, but loud enough underwater to sound like a detonation, and set it off directly above the breach point. The concussive sound wave rolled through the water like thunder. Everything stopped. The drilling ceased immediately. Marcus could imagine the chaos below, experience thieves suddenly hearing what sounded like an explosion directly above their heads, wondering if they'd triggered security, if the police had breached their tunnel, if their entire operation had just been compromised. He set off a second marker, then a third, creating the audio signature of multiple detonations, simulating exactly what underwater defensive charges would sound like if someone was deliberately collapsing their tunnel. Through the concrete, Marcus heard shouting, movement, the sounds of people retreating in panic. He'd bought time, maybe enough. Marcus surfaced and signaled Jennifer. Drilling stopped. Thieves possibly retreating. Jennifer held up her phone. Police in building. SWAT en route to bank basement. Marcus climbed onto the platform, exhausted from the adrenaline and the tactical diving. Jennifer handed him a towel. What did you do down there? Convinced them they'd been detected. Used acoustic deception to simulate defensive charges. Old Navy trick for deterring enemy divers. And it worked? We'll know in about 3 minutes when SWAT hits the tunnel entrance. They waited. The aquarium's normal sounds continued around them, children laughing at the touch pools, guides explaining marine biology, the gentle hum of filtration systems. Then Jennifer's radio crackled. Security channel. All units, police have secured 4 suspects in the maintenance sublevel. Bank tunnel located and sealed. No injuries. Repeat, suspects in custody. Marcus exhaled. 6 years of civilian life, and the one day he'd needed his military training, it had been there. Waiting. Ready. Marcus, Jennifer said quietly, why didn't you tell us about your Navy background? Because I didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted to be the guy who feeds sharks and makes kids smile, not the guy who thinks about tactics and threat assessment. But today you had to be both, Marcus smiled slightly. Today I got to be both. There's a difference. The investigation revealed that the heist crew had been planning for 14 months. They'd rented space in the parking structure, posed as a construction company doing foundation repairs, and slowly tunneled toward the bank vault using professional mining equipment. They'd calculated everything except the aquarium's dive schedule, and they'd never considered that the friendly diver entertaining children might have expertise that would compromise their operation. The bank's security was upgraded. The aquarium's foundation was reinforced, and Marcus's employee file was updated to reflect his Navy EOD background, which resulted in a promotion to head of safety and emergency preparedness. But he kept doing the dive shows, twice daily, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., because making children smile while swimming with sharks was still the best job he'd ever had, even if sometimes, just sometimes, he had to remember how to be something more than an entertainer. So now I ask you, have you ever met someone like Marcus? Someone whose peaceful life hid capabilities most people couldn't imagine. Someone who hoped never to use old skills again, but stood ready when needed. Someone whose gentle profession concealed expertise that could stop professional criminals? Tell us their story in the comments. Say their name. Tell us what city you're watching from today. Because at the Human Stories, we believe the deepest skills often hide beneath the surface. EOD divers become aquarium entertainers, combat specialists become educators, warriors become protectors of wonder. But when danger surfaces, they dive deep into who they were and use those skills to protect what they've become. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it. Help us honor those who carry expertise in silence and deploy it only when lives depend on it. We publish human stories that matter every single week. We'll see you in the next one. And remember, if you ever meet someone whose calm presence feels too practiced, whose awareness seems too sharp, don't underestimate them, because the quietest waters sometimes run the deepest, and beneath that peaceful surface might be skills that could save your life.